Hi, everybody. I'm excited to host this very special guest tonight on our team call. The one and only, my husband, Stephen Gubernick.
It's your strongest leg, actually.
Oh, he's on, yes. He is a coach. He just went Emerald recently after six years of being a coach.
I'm Star Diamond. See? Star Diamond?
He is on vacation with Liz's husband, Steve. So you guys, they made sure to wear their Beachbody gear. They have their setup with their bag of Shakeology. They just poured their bevy to have to drink. Let's hope there's not something else mixed in there. So we have focus during this call. When we scheduled them on for today, we did not know they were going to be out of town on vacation together. So, but I'm excited for you guys to hear from him because, like I said in my post, as hard as it is for me, you don't always want to listen to what your husband has to say, but a lot of times he's right, and he has some really great advice. He has been to a multitude of Tony Robbins seminars, which we've done together. I'm going to talk about his accolades a little bit. Since we can't name all of his accolades within Beachbody, we'll name his accolades outside of Beachbody. Many Tony Robbins seminars, him and I together. He's gone on to Business Mastery seminar with Tony Robbins. He's had a life coach with Tony Robbins. He's gone to, what's the other guy's name, Steve?
Burchard?
Burchard, yes, Brendan Burchard. He's been to, the other guy you went to with Damien. Proctor, yeah, you name it. He is the king of personal development. He reads more than I have ever seen anybody, constantly learning, growing, always wanting to better himself. In addition, he has started many businesses that have been extremely successful, sold some of them. Currently, he founded and created the Modern Acupuncture franchise. If you have any of those, they are spread out across the United States. That was his concept that he created on our living room couch, and there was a why for it that was so big, and he had the actions that went along with that to create his why and make it a reality. And so I wanted him to share with you today. I have a couple of questions I'm going to walk through to kind of guide the conversation, which I think will kind of go off into some other areas. But do you have anything to say, Steve?
No, thanks, honey, for the intro. I guess 99% of what I'll say, I don't know what I'm going to say when you ask me questions, but if you ask me it 10 times, I'm going to give you 10 different answers. But 90% will be a copy of something that I stole from somebody else.
Oh, your internet's choppy, honey.
Burchard. Yeah, hold on. Can you not hear me?
You're cutting out.
Weird. Steve goes in the bedroom, he shuts the door for 5 seconds, and now my internet's cutting out. He's streaming live video, I'm sure. Hey, are you on the Wi-Fi?
No, I'm not.
Hold on.
Was it choppy for you guys too? Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's better now.
I said, tell me if it gets choppy. 99% of what I'll say is nothing, is really from everybody else that I steal from their ideas. And I did all those seminars, but it's about retaining it, of course. It matters. So 1% will be from my own experience, but I learned a lot from all those people. So if I can pull any of it up right now and tell you, those are the things that help me. So if you need to stop me at any point, just stop too. You don't need to feel like you need to let me talk if I'm talking, if you guys need to go.
And you can write questions in the chat too if anything comes up for you guys. All right, do you want me to start with our first question?
Sure.
Okay, this is from someone in the panel here, someone in the group. Talk to me about this. Someone figures out what their why is. They feel connected to it, but it's not driving their productivity. So it's not making them show up every day. It's not making them do the actions to get the results they want.
Yeah. This is good. You've never heard me talk about this. Yeah, I've never even talked about this, so this is good. there's an invisible force in the universe that is relentless and will destroy you if you don't beat the invisible force. And every president, every athlete, every success you've ever heard of has gone through it multiple times. And even after you beat it, it still returns. The invisible force is called resistance. And what resistance is basically it's something that comes out of really thinking and talking to people, and leads to basically procrastination and excuses, and stops you from accomplishing everything. So you talked about modern acupuncture. What got me to start modern acupuncture was learning this part. This is probably one of the most important things that I ever learned. The force is called resistance, and it will be there no matter what. And if you don't do things to actively fight the resistance, it'll shut you down from doing anything that you want to do. So let me, I guess, explain this a little bit more. When you want to start or when you want to start any business, well, let me rewind. Here's where resistance shows up the strongest. When you want to go on a diet and you start talking to people about it and they tell you how stupid it is. When you want to start a business and they tell you how stupid it is. When you have something that involves giving you or somebody else a six-pack, resistance is the ultimate thing you're going to meet. If you remember back in the start of coaching or even through coaching, you reach a point where it's like people are telling you, you hear like, don't do it, or it's stupid, or that doesn't work. It happens in every business. That is what's called resistance. And that happens constantly in every business to every single person. And being aware of the resistance, realizing that it's a totally normal part of everything that you're going to do, is really the most important thing, to understand that that's totally normal. So I'll explain it a little bit more. Resistance is a lot like, it's like a season. Like Jim Rohn, if you ever listen to Jim Rohn, not the sports guy, the motivational speaker guy, the old guy, he talks about that everything in life and business goes in seasons. Winter's always coming, so you don't get too down in the winter because summer's coming right after it. And you don't get too high in the summer because winter is coming. And every time you experience this kind of like setback or, some lack of motivation, you start to procrastinate, you just need to realize that that is the invisible force called resistance. And it usually shows up in a more tangible way and exactly what you just said. You have this why and this purpose, but you don't do anything. That's resistance. If you don't combat the resistance and push through the resistance, it will win 100% of the time. Once you break through the resistance and you push yourself through it and understand that no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter what thing you're going towards, there's always going to be people against you. There's always going to be haters. There's always going to be people who are stupid on the internet who say stupid shit. Like, no matter what you're doing, that's going to come up. And if you let that slow you down or stop you, you need to realize that is just fuel to resistance. It's just part of the game. It's totally normal. If you study anybody in history, Steve Jobs, let me give you an example of this. You think Jeff Bezos, the guy who started Amazon, met resistance when he went to his parents and said, I have a business idea, I need $300,000. And his parents said, well, all we have is $300,000. And he said, I need to have it to do this business idea, and I'm probably going to lose it. Like, you think he met some resistance? So obviously he did. Steve Jobs, you think the Wright brothers met some resistance when they said they're going to have some object that flies you in the air? Or Henry Ford, when it was basically not a car, there was just a horse, said, I'm going to make a machine. The resistance is totally normal. And you have to realize that that's part of it. So what was tell me, read the question one more time.
Okay, hold on, please. Okay, so someone figures out what their why is. They're connected to it. They let's say it's to be able to quit their job and stay home with their family, but like they really want that. But when it comes to like getting up every day and showing up to their business and doing those like not fun things, like, you know, the work behind the business, behind the scenes stuff, they're not getting it done. And so they're not reaching their goals they're setting for themselves. It's not, they're not, their why, it's like they have this vision of what they want to create, but they're not being productive to get themselves there.
I think it's a lot of what Tony Robbins talks about with that too, where most people underestimate, or really most people overestimate what they could accomplish in a year, and they underestimate what they could accomplish in 5 years or 10 years. And when you make this grand why and goal, you know, in my own experience, I've always searched really hard to find like, well, what's my why? What's my purpose? And what I figured is, you know, after going through that for a long time, is that I have made it, and I know a lot of people do, you make this why like almost too important. And you search for this, like, you know, like you're Eckhart Tolle sitting on a bench in a park in his book, and a bell goes off in a flash of light, and you found this purpose that is going to guide you for the rest of your life. What I have found is my why changes regularly. It changes like every 2 months. And I don't think that you're going to find, I haven't seen it, where you just find this why. And then that's just like, you're set and it pushes you through everything forever. I think the solution to what you're saying is you set a smaller why, you know, and in fact, I honestly don't even like asking, I like asking why not? Like, why would you not see how many coaches you get? You can help.
Really bad,
why would you not see how much weight?
You're really
What?
choppy, Steve.
Cutting out?
Yeah, you keep freezing and you're choppy.
He's back.
Okay, hold on.
Are you
Turn off the Wi-Fi on your phone, Steve.
Steve Dinkins?
He already
No.
hit it off. I texted him.
Hold on. I'm gonna call in.
We like to see you when you're speaking to us, though.
Well, just go to the all view. Don't go to speaker view.
I think it is on all view right now. Okay, that's
All
good.
right.
So he's gonna call in, you guys. It'll show that his green little phone is the one talking, but you'll be able to see him talking. Just mute. Okay.
Okay. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Where'd I cut out?
You cut out at a really good point talking about making
All right.
smaller whys.
Okay. So what I was saying was this idea of why I have seen to be made out to be a little bigger. I'm not saying the why is not important. I think the why is really important. But I don't think that you're going to find this one answer of why, your purpose, and then that just sets your direction forever. I think that what's most important is generating momentum. And you generate momentum by having small wins along the way. You could set your direction, you know, like you could know you're in Phoenix and you want to fly to New York. You could set that path, but you have to accomplish small wins along the way. And if you set this large why, you don't become aware of the little steps. I like to set smaller whys. And what I was saying is, I don't even honestly like to say why. I like to say, why not? Why would you not see how many books you can read, how many coaches you can sign, how much weight you can lose, how much weight your groups can lose, how many six-packs can be made in your group, like how many people are drinking Shakeology, how many workouts can you do consecutively? Like, why would you ask yourself why about everything? Instead, why don't you ask yourself, why are you not? Like, why would I not do this? Right? So, you know, I think I've always been able to simplify my why, because I think it's confusing and like impossible to get a good answer that just gets you going. And I've always simplified mine as, you know, I ask myself, why not? And then I ask myself, well, who? Like, who is relying on me? Who needs me? You know, like I know my family is relying on me. So that is something that can get me going because I don't have a choice in that scenario. I know my kids need me to succeed. I know my wife needs me to succeed. I know I'd be fine if I didn't because I don't really care, honestly, because I have a belief that, you know, things happen for a reason. Whatever happens, as long as I've set the direction, it's going to get me there eventually, no matter what. But I like to ask myself, why would I not? And then I like to ask myself, who? Like, who do I have to do this for? For you guys at your level, or, you know, I don't know where everybody's at, and I don't even know what the levels mean, but I know that some of you are at, you know, you have this big growth and you hit a certain level, and then you want to break through to the next level. Like what Courtney and I were talking about the other day is, you don't need this big freaking lightning bulb to go off to get you to the next level, because you know what, in all reality, everybody who you've signed on below you over the last several years, how do you know that they're not relying on you? You can't let them down. Like, what makes you think because you haven't set some why, you have to go to the next level because they need you to. And you need to be there to help them to get there. You don't know what's going on in people's lives. Like I said to Courtney, what if somebody's, you know, in this business because they need to make money because their kid has cancer and they need to pay the bills? Well, they could be relying on you to get them there. So it's not that you have to have some why for you. Maybe it's for somebody else. So, you know, I don't know if that answers the question, but I've always really struggled with this major why. I'd rather ask myself, well, what can I do? And why would I not? Give me one reason why not to. And you can't. You can't give yourself one reason why not to see how far you can go. If you have one, give it to me. I've been looking for that harder than for the why.
That was so good, honey. So many good nuggets there. And as you were talking, I was looking through the other questions I had written. I was like, oh, he kind of just touched on that. No, he kind of just touched on that. So maybe can you touch on how, and I know, so if it's not going to be a why, then the relying on who's relying on me or why not, like how can they figure out, again, I guess that's the motivator. The motivator is daily. It's not about you. It's about the other people, right? Like you were saying, it's not you that that you have to show up for necessarily. It's the other people that you might not even know their story.
I think it's oftentimes a little bit less about what do you want to get, right? Like, what do you want to accomplish? I think it's more about who do you want to become? Not what do you want to get out of it? It's more like, who do you want to be? I don't want to be somebody that, you know, is going to, like, with the stuff that I'm saying in my head as I'm thinking through this, like, I don't want to be somebody that is fully consciously aware that resistance is a 100% normal part that 100% of people will go through no matter what and everything they do. Knowing that consciously, I don't want to be somebody that's going to procrastinate and make an excuse, or not saying anybody's doing that. I'm just saying that's what resistance looks like. When you notice yourself procrastinating and making excuses, that's resistance winning the war. I know you think I'm too intense and everything's not a football game.
No, I love
say
it.
that. But when you see yourself procrastinating, or when you see yourself making excuse, or when you see yourself, you know, distracted, or you see yourself scrolling through Instagram for 9 hours and then telling yourself that you're working, but you're really not, you know, that's resistance at its finest, winning the war. And the key thing about that is when you reach this kind of level, then you're trying to break through to the next level, right? So you beat resistance. You got to that first hump, but now you can't get to the next hump. That's because, like I said earlier, resistance comes in seasons. Just because you made it to the first hump, yeah, you won the war, but it doesn't go away. It comes back, and it comes back harder when you need it the least. But what you need to realize, and what I think is the best part, is the harder it comes, which means the more you don't want to take action, right? It means it's really kicking your ass. The bigger the reward is at the end. Like the more resistance you face, like the bigger the battle is, the greater the more gratitude comes out of it, pushing through that. And guess what? When you push through it again, great. Winter's still coming. So you don't die in the winter. You prepare and you realize summer's coming and you continue. That's why I love what Tony says, that quote, most people overestimate what they could do in a year and underestimate what they could do in 10 years. That's so important to realize, because the major why is overestimating what you could do in 1 year. You could still have the major why, but it's the small why. So how do you kind of get some of that? It comes down to just really self-discipline. And how do you get self-discipline? Does that mean you need to be a Navy SEAL? No. Self-discipline and self-confidence. And all of that comes from one simple thing: very small daily accomplishments or habits that you complete on a regular basis. If you got up every day at 7 o'clock and you did your workout 45 days in a row, 30 days in a row, you have just now established a very high level of self-discipline, which is equally related to a very high level of self-confidence. And when you have self-confidence, you're able to tap into more of your potential and take a different action and get a different result. So I think it's really, really important not just to have a reason, it's to have yourself develop the self-discipline and self-confidence by accomplishing a daily little habit to take you there. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but it does to me at least.
100%. So I wanted to ask you then, so we talked about this resistance. So if somebody's going throughout their day or their week and they can acknowledge that it is the resistance, like in that moment, they're sitting there like listening to the stories in their head about why they can scroll Instagram or how that's work or whatever. How do they like stop that resistance and push through in the moment to move forward?
It's just like a meditation. So like the success points, or a good sign that you're making progress when someone starts meditating a lot is, like in meditation, I'll use an example. You just focus on breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. And then if you're like me, you take 2 breaths and all of a sudden you're thinking about, a dog running by or whatever. Like it takes 2 seconds. And when you become aware when you're meditating that you've lost track of your breath, right? That is the success in the meditation, that you've lost your awareness and now you go right back to the breathing. Like, for example, the guy, one of the guys that I study, he talks about you start breathing, you lose track, you realize you lost track, and you say to yourself, begin again. And you start breathing again. And then maybe you get 3 breaths. Then you lose track and you say, begin again. And maybe you get 4 breaths. But the simple fact that you became aware that you lost track of your breath and you need to begin again is exactly what you're describing. If you say to yourself, oh shit, that's resistance. I'm at war. I need to destroy the resistance or it's going to destroy me. You've already started to win that battle because you're now aware of it. And just that you're aware of it is going to take you to the next step. It has to. Is that? Okay, hold on. My computer's doing something weird. So just that you're aware, you say, oh my God, this is resistance. This is what Steve was just talking about. You're going to see it 30 seconds after you hang up the phone call. And then you'll become aware of it and you'll start to realize and you'll say, okay, now what do I need to do? What was I doing? Okay, I need to do those 10 posts or whatever. I don't know, whatever you do. But that's the answer. That awareness is already starting to win the battle. But lose track of the awareness, and the second you lose track of that awareness, resistance starts to eat you for lunch. You have no chance. It's like Khaleesi's dragon in Game of Thrones. It just destroys everything. Look at somebody with like amazing potential, and then all of a sudden they just like disappear. You know what that is? Resistance destroying them. And they didn't even know what it was. They didn't know where it came from. Like, they don't even know what happened. That's what happened. That's literally what happened. You know who it didn't catch? Michael Jordan. Obama. God, I was reading about some of this in a book. He was talking about the Obama campaign. And right before Obama got elected, there was some like race scandal thing with somebody from his church or something like that. And he was aware of this. He knew that there's an invisible force in the universe. 99.9% of politicians in that scenario, when it's about to be election and there's some big scandal that happens, because they always get set up for this by their opponent, 99% of them will just say, let's stay quiet and hope it blows over and then just move forward. What Obama did is said, oh, that's resistance, total awareness. You know what he did? He went public, called it out publicly, brought the guy out publicly, and used it as a total teaching lesson, and then obviously won the election. Basically did the impossible at that point because he's aware of the resistance. I forgot your question.
You covered the question.
Oh.
You covered the question, but I don't know if you're seeing the chat. Madeline asked if you meditate. I answered, yes, he does. He has to calm his brain.
Yeah.
Because if not,
No, I don't meditate to calm my brain.
oh,
That's
you know,
not at all why I meditate. I don't need to calm who needs to calm their brain? I want to energize my brain. I meditate because it keeps me aware constantly. I mean, in fact, you're talking about meditation and being aware of the resistance and stuff. That's presence. That's the whole purpose of meditation, is to develop presence. When an athlete is in the zone, all they are is totally present, right? So you're trying, hey, Malwin.
Hello. I've had this conversation many times.
Madeline gets life lessons, as she calls them, daily in our house. You're getting a little snippet into it. All right, now go. You're interrupting his thought process.
So, anyways, yeah, I meditate to keep me aware. I mean, I do meditate to keep me clear and calm, but I like to be able to stay as aware as I can, because that keeps you in the zone. You know, I like sports analogies. There's nothing better than being in the zone in sports. Madeline, who you just saw, was in the zone last weekend and shot the lowest golf round of her life. And we talked about how to get into the zone like an hour before that, and she somehow did it and it worked. But the more you do these things, this is actually really important. Everything that you think and do in the brain fires a pathway in the brain, which is basically one nerve or track kind of firing in a different track. And the more those pathways fire, the easier and better they'll fire the next time. So when you have a nerve cells in the brain, they're surrounded by like a kind of like a wire with, you know, like insulation around it. The more you do something, the more that insulation thickens, and then the better it fires next time, and the faster it fires the next time. So when you say, like, do you meditate? Or you use the example of, you're aware that this is resistance. What do you do? Every time you become aware like that, you've now made yourself more aware to it and more sensitized to catch it even faster next time, respond even better the next time. Go ahead, Aunt Wizzy.
Can you elaborate on that? Because I feel like it goes both ways with the negative side of the neurons firing.
Yeah.
And like, just, you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, that's a really good point that you just said, because remember, our brains are not designed for success. Our brains are designed for survival. So if there's a threat or something negative, your brain is hyper aware of that so that you don't die. Like, you're way more aware of, for example, here's a good one. Ready? If a bear comes through your door right now, right? You're sitting there, the same light, same smell, same clothes, and a bear comes through your door. No matter what you do, unless you get dementia and that part of your brain totally degenerates, you're going to remember that instantly for the rest of your life. Follow me there? Okay. If you're sitting there now, forget the bear. Let's say you look over and you just see like a pretty flower and you think it's awesome, right? It's going to feel good and you're going to remember it. But 25 years from now, you're not going to remember that. It's not just going to hit you like instant, right? So the danger negative is so much more powerful into the brain. So when you sit and you're thinking of something bad, or you have some idiot say something stupid on Instagram, and you dwell on that, you're not just wasting your time, but you're laying down a pathway in the brain that can now fire even easier and more intense the next time. And every time that pathway fires, it fires off the stress centers of the brain. You might not even feel the stress, but your brain will react as stress. And that'll diminish not only your immune system, but your motivation, It'll spike your cortisol and start storing more fat. It'll kill your memory. It screws up your digestion. And then all of a sudden you can't sleep. And then the cycle never ends. That's because the brain has such a powerful system to take these negative things and ingrain them so deep that anytime you run a pattern consistently, it becomes like an addiction. And the same thing goes, as I just described, in negative for the positive. But the difference is the negative happens automatically because the negative is the resistance. It's there no matter what. You either fight it to turn it off, right? So you fight the negative by consciously focusing on the positive, or the negative will overrun you. That's how it works. That's how the brain works. Does that make sense?
Totally. So Steve has I didn't mention all this, but he has, he's a chiropractor, but a ton of neurological, I don't know, minor in neurology or whatever. So the brain and all of the functions of the body is super interesting to him. Okay, question for you that's a little different, Steve, that popped up here. Brittany asked, were you hesitant of the coaching idea when you first heard Courtney talk about it? If so, what changed your mind?
No, I wasn't hesitant at all. I'm a little biased because I come from a health background, but more importantly, you know, again, 99% of what I say, I steal from everybody else who's 1,000 times smarter. Progress is happiness. And even if it's a failed venture, it's progress, it's development, it's growth, and that's happiness. Where you become the opposite of that is, again, when you start to think. So this kind of ties right back into the whole resistance thing. So where does it come from? I'm going to come back to this in a second. Resistance comes from two main areas. Your conscious thoughts, or your logical thinking, because thinking creates fear. And fear is all of the food source for resistance. That's what it is. It's just fear. What do they say? Fear is false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. So the resistance comes from your thoughts, not just negative thoughts, just thinking at all. You don't need to think. I'm going to sidetrack for a second. You don't even need to really think. Like, it's good to plan, but once you set a direction, your conscious brain absorbs like 99.9999% of the information in the world. Your subconscious brain. So your subconscious brain absorbs everything. Once you set your direction, your subconscious mind is going to take you there no matter what really happens, which is why I kind of don't really care about anything, because I know I'm just on this like airplane going a certain direction. And even if we detour and land for 15,000 layovers, I'm still going that direction because my subconscious brain is going to take me there no matter what. So it comes from thinking, because that creates fear and fuels resistance. And it comes from your friends and family. So your question about, was I hesitant about the coaching idea? Nothing will fuel resistance more than thinking and your friends and family. If you tell your family right now, I'm going to start a business that gives 1,000 people a six-pack by eating broccoli all day, almost every one of them is going to tell you you're an idiot and not to do it, because your family knows you as who you are, and that's all they want you to be. And I'm not saying, keep in mind, I'm generalizing here. I'm not talking about everybody's family, whatever. But they know you as who you are and who they want you to stay and who that you should be. They don't know you as who you should become and who you want to become. So to them, it's like totally crazy for you to think anything outside of what you've been forever. So was I hesitant about the idea of coaching? No, I wasn't, because I know progress is happiness, for one. And I also know that Courtney has never even heard me talk about this before. And I know she didn't read it, so because she would have talked about it. So I know if I am resistant, it's going to create the ultimate resistance for her, and she would never have probably done it. You know how many millions of coaches there are that are not coaches that would be unbelievable coaches? Like, you know how good Liz's husband would be as a coach? But there's so many millions of coaches that never became coaches because they went to their husband and said, I want to start coaching. And the husband said, we don't need to do that. You know, we got too much shit to do at home or whatever. And then because the primary source of resistance is your friends and family, you automatically buy into it and have total resistance. Now, most of you met that and broke through it, but don't forget, winter is still coming. I think it's summer right now. And here's why. I think it's summer for all Beachbody coaches. In fact, I think this is probably the best time in the history of Beachbody to be a Beachbody coach, mainly because people are working out at home. But number two, because there's so much fear creating so much resistance and all of the competition out there. Those who are aware can destroy resistance and the competition. And not just other coaches. I'm talking about like other companies, other products, other workouts, people who aren't motivated that now want to be motivated. Like there's more opportunity now than ever. And that's all fueled by resistance. Resistance eating other people. If I was hesitant, what would have changed my mind? Seeing Courtney wanting to, you know, what motivates a lot of you. A lot of you want to coach because you get in the routine of life and kids and home and, you know, or you left your jobs in the job world and you want to do something and you want to have something for yourself. So I would have totally supported it just for that.
I think that's a really good point that, and even us as coaches, if we're having conversations with people that their spouses or significant others or family aren't supportive, that it kind of goes back to that whole, what negative can come from becoming a coach? You care about your food you're putting into your body, you're exercising, which is positive, right? There's so many positive things that this brings to the table. Even if the business doesn't end up being successful, you're still positives, right, into your life. So, and I'll say too, like I met resistance, you know, my parents were supportive and, but I asked, you know, talk to my parents about it, talk to Steve about it, talk to my sister-in-laws about it. But there is one member of our family who hasn't been supportive, and that's someone that has always, even to this day, 6 years in, never really acknowledged it. And it's someone close in our family. And I use that as a fuel. You know what I mean? I think at the beginning, when I was buying my coach sign-up package, I did say I was going to do P90X3. And Steve did say to me, you can't do that. That's too hard. And then, of course, I did it because I was like, well, shit, now I'm going to show you.
That was just because I was watching the infomercial and people looked like they were dying. So
right,
I didn't want you to die.
No, yeah, he, you know, but that
I'm kidding.
That is motivation, you know, to move your business. But I love that question. Madeline had a serious question for you. She says, is your next step going to be motivational speaking because you're killing it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Madeline.
Madeline, this is a conversation I've had with him for years now. Needs to write a book, needs to have a seminar series.
I mean, this is what I picked, Steve. I know I probably shouldn't be talking to you right now because I feel like you're in the zone. But this is what I picture, Steve. I am a runner, and I want to go listen to your words and run my little feet off. That's what I want. So I think you need to. If this is from the universe or whatever you believe in to go and do the next thing, I'm feeling it. Like I have a whole 2 pages of notes here and I can't wait to talk all about it on my Instagram. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
But you know,
and we're a podcast that we can check regularly, all of these things, honey. See, I tell him he needs to hear it from others.
I know you're going to ask me at some point something like, well, what should we do every day? I guarantee you're going to ask me that, right? You're going to ask me that, Courtney?
Right now, yeah.
Are you going to
do every day?
And to what Madeline just said, again, I don't really make anything up. So, well, where does it come from? One of the things that I do every day, and I like to do it when I'm working out, and depending on where you live, I do this like really loud, so I'm sure the neighbors hear it too. But I go on YouTube. I turn on YouTube when I'm working out, like as loud as it goes, and I just type in like Tony Robbins motivation or Les Brown or whatever. And I listen to these guys say the same stuff that I'm saying literally 365 days a year for at least 20 minutes a day. And I think that's so important to do. And to be honest, probably 90% of the time, it's just the same stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I've heard that 1,000 times, whatever. And I don't even realize that I'm like totally focused on it. It's not even getting me that pumped up. But here's what I do know. I do know, again, what Tony says, that if you don't maintain your garden, weeds will grow. And he says that you have to stand guard at the gate of your mind. And the second you stop maintaining your garden and the weeds start growing, if enough weeds grow, it takes it takes a whole team to get the freaking weeds out of the garden. So even though I'm not sitting there saying, yeah, I'm getting so pumped up, hearing the same thing 10,000 times, I do it because I know that if I stop doing it, resistance will grow. So one of the things that I do every single day is I always listen to something, anything. I might even be in my car. Honestly, I might even be on the phone while, it's playing in the background or something. I find a way to always have that being ingrained so that when I do get faced with resistance, which happens like every day, I have an automatic playlist. I have an automatic go-to in my head. It's like I said to Courtney right when we started. If you ask me these same questions 10 times, I'm going to give you 11 different answers because I don't, it's just the random stuff that these guys say, but it all makes sense. And the only reason that I have it in my head is just because I listen to it so consistently to keep the weeds from growing in my garden. And the other part is the standing guard at the gate of your mind. Part of that is just being aware that when the negative stuff comes in, you just block it. Well, I can't do that because it just bothers me so much. That's called resistance destroying you. You can do that. You've done it a million times in your life. Well, they said something so rude and everybody saw it, and that's resistance. The more resistance you have is more of an opportunity to win. And you have to take the daily steps to prepare yourself for that. Honestly, I don't even like working out. I actually don't enjoy it. I mean, I do it 7 days a week, no matter what. And I don't even do it for my body because I'm luckily just automatically skinny. I could probably eat McDonald's every day and stay skinny. I do it for my mind because I know the harder I push myself through something challenging, the stronger my mind gets. And then the more resistance comes, I laugh at it. Then when you win, it's even better. It's just like we had, 10 years ago, we were broke, but it's even greater. It's like the greatest thing ever because now I can look back and say, oh my God, how awesome is this?
Very true. I don't think I had any more questions. Do you guys have any? Anybody want to speak up and ask a question? I know I asked in the chat. Or anything that, as he said it, provoked a thought that made you want him to elaborate on a little bit? Anyone? No? All right.
No, I do actually. It might be silly, but just, are there any tips or tricks that we can, I don't know, tell our mind or when we are meeting that resistance? I mean, I definitely have had, it resonates with me well because I do have those moments where I just don't, part of me wants to, but then the other part of me is I don't know. So are there things other than just pushing through it that can kind of help with the mindset?
And let me tell you too that this group of people on here are people that chose to be in a select group of people that are pushing to hit a rank goal by a certain date. So they're in grind time of the business because they're trying to reach this goal by a certain date. So that's who you're speaking to here.
Yeah. So you've already destroyed resistance 1,000 times to get to where you're at. And so that's important to realize because the ability and the capacity to destroy that, you've already done. So this isn't something new for you. You just didn't know you were doing it. And I said earlier, the first step is being aware. That's going to do an enormous part. That'll do 99% of it. Just being aware. It sounds so simple and easy for me to say, we'll just push through. The fact that you're aware of it's going to do 99% of it. But I could tell you, I have to think on that, but I could tell you the first thing that comes to my mind is something that I used to do. You know, I used to do this when I was in my chiropractic practice because I saw like 100 people a day, and that's like a football game every day. And I would do it 5-6 days a week for years. So when you're doing that, you have to find a way to get yourself going, because resistance in that scenario, it doesn't even it comes from like thinking, you know, more. It's like there's no one saying anything negative. Like you have all these great stories, so that's all positive. But just thinking, like if I wake up and I'm like, God, I don't want to freaking go do this today. It's like exhausting and you're sore and all that stuff. So, you know, what I would do is I want to say, I don't mean what I'm about to say, but I'll say it. I would lie to myself, but I wasn't really lying to myself because I really did believe it. But I would make something up. Like I would literally say to myself, if I woke up, well, I would do this every day no matter what. I would get in my car when I was driving to my office. I'd put on a speaker, like a motivational speaker guy that's specific to like healing. And I would convince myself, even if I had to make up stories that weren't even real, I would convince myself that there's a line of people outside my door right now, and if I don't save their life, they're going to die and it's going to be my fault. Like I would literally convince myself, if I don't adjust this girl, she's going to overdose on Oxycontin because I wasn't focused and I didn't deliver. Literally, I swear to God, I would do this almost every day, especially later on in my career. But the more I did that, like the more fired up I would come in, and I got busier and busier and better results. So if you have to lie to yourself, I know I think I do stuff a little bit more extreme than most, but I would create an extreme picture in my mind. And it was like, if I was a coach, I mean, I am a coach. I have like a double Elmo strong leg. But if I was a real coach, I would convince myself of two things. I'd probably convince myself that if I don't make this happen, now let me pause for a second. I know that some of the things that I say are kind of like contradictory, and this is why I think this big why is so hard, because there's no right answer. It's like whatever fits for you is what you use. There's no right answer. If you think someone's going to tell you the right why or the right action, it's not going to happen. I've spent like $100,000 on seminars to find it, and it's not out there because there's one that fits for you. So even if some of these things are contradictory, I don't really care. It's fine because one of them will fit. And anyways, if I was a coach, I would convince myself that if I don't make this next level happen, my family's going to be on the street. It's all on me to happen. But I like that pressure, so that works for me. I would also convince myself that if I don't get these people going, like if I don't get these people on their workouts, if I don't get these people on as a coach, like they're relying on me to make it. I don't know what's going on. They might be on the street and they're depending on me. Like I convince myself I like that pressure. I want that pressure because it keeps me going. So I don't know if that works for you or not, but you know, that's what at least works for me. And the other thing I would do before I do any of that is you have to, my favorite clothing that Beachbody's ever made is the product of the product shirt, because I love that simple thing. Like if all of you aren't drinking the shakes and doing the workouts 6 days a week, and if you, or whatever the program is, 4 days a week, whatever, or even half-assing it, even pretending to do it, just putting on freaking gym shoes and then staring at the TV. It doesn't matter. If you're not doing that, if you're not living that product, and you think that people don't have enough of a radar to detect bullshit, you're not going to make it. I don't see how you could. I mean, many people can con people, but everybody always finds out who the con man is. And, you know, so you have to be living it. I don't see another way to do that. I don't know. Does that help you at all?
Yeah, thank you. No, it's good.
I think too, for all of us, like, we're going to acknowledge the resistance now and be like, oh, that's what's happening right now. And that'll probably be enough to make that shift and push through. That's what I think as I'm listening to him. Okay, I had one more idea really quick. I know some people popped off, but does anyone want to tell Steve, if you're feeling stuck, do you want to tell him all of the reasons why you're feeling stuck and have him kind of like walk you through, like, psychoanalyze your stuckness, if that makes sense? That's like what I do with him, you know, when I'm feeling like, I can't do this. And that's how kind of this call all started, because he did that for me that one day. So does anybody willing to say, this is where I'm at, and put yourself out there? It's like when you get picked on, you raise your hand at Tony Robbins seminar.
Yeah, because I know so much. I know so much just like Tony Robbins. So let's.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying when you stand up and then you gotta like say your truth. You know, Nicole wants to.
Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest thing is I know I'm still new into the coaching. I think I'm going on 4 months now, and like I think I feel like I hit a peak with getting like people signed up, and now I'm kind of like back down here again, where like I'm still getting like positive feedback and always getting asked questions, but I find that I'm like running into like a little bit of a cul-de-sac on like how I can try to, I don't know, get my people back focused, I guess.
Well, why do you think it's not happening? What's your opinion on why?
That I'm not trying hard enough, that I should be.
Okay. Are you doing the same amount that you used to do?
This past week, no, but prior to that, I was really good, and then I had some health things come up this past week that kind of put me at a roadblock, and so that's kind of, I think that's, I'm not trying to blame it, you know, put everything on one blame, but I feel like, I don't know, I'm like at that like level right there.
Okay, I'm going to talk as if I'm talking to Courtney, because I don't want to offend anybody, so I'm pretending I'm talking to Courtney right now. So if I say something wrong, yell at her. I think you answered part of your question right up front. You know, you're not putting in the same amount of effort that you used to. And I don't know why you would think you could put in less effort and get the same result. You can't put in 10 minutes of a workout and get the same result as a 20-minute workout. So, I mean, that's kind of the simple thing. And, you know, so you have to be honest with yourself, first of all. And, you know, what I said earlier, it reminds me of the Tony quote that I said earlier. You may and I hate saying this right now because I wouldn't drop your goals at all. In fact, I would always push to elevate your goals. But I don't think you beat yourself up, because you may overestimate what you could do in 6 months and underestimate what you're going to do in the next 2 years. That's possible too. And what's going to happen is you start to say the pattern that you're saying, you know, like you're in this slump and you can't get out of it and you're not doing what you used to. And look what that's done. It's strengthened that negative pattern even further. And that is what resistance is, live right in front of you. Like, that's literally, you're like a live example of this happening. You've had one curveball at some point, you lost a little bit of momentum, and now that you've lost momentum, you're trying to hit a grand slam. You're not going to hit a grand slam. You have to go back and hit a single and a single and a single and do little tiny daily actions, not a grand slam. Like, you're not going to make a phone call and someone's going to pick up the phone and go, guess what, Nicole? I have 75 coaches that want to sign up today. You got to sign one. And you got to sign one more. And you got to do one more workout. You got to read one more book. You got to do it 10 minutes more a day. You can't go into a slump and then try and hit a grand slam. It's not going to happen, because you're trying to overestimate in reality what's possible in the next 3 months. And you'll probably get there by hitting singles. But I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So keep this in mind. I'm making this shit up right now. But my gut tells me that you're trying to accomplish too much too fast because you took a little dip. And you need to go back to the fundamentals. Go back to the basics. break it down into bite-sized chunks. Don't eat it all with one bite. That's all I got.
So good. Is there anybody else?
I'll have my private counseling session with Dr. Steve later.
Like, I need a schedule. Put me on the schedule.
I was gonna say I am not creating any residual income, and I am gonna answer my own, Steve. So tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure you could answer it the same exact way that you just answered Nicole. So your question would be, Maddie, how much effort are you putting in? Well, probably bare minimum, like probably 10 minutes trying to get back into work, and I have all the excuses and the pressure of the resistance coming. Am I being honest with myself? No, I don't want to be honest with myself. I should just be able to show up and when I want to have money in my account, and that's not how it works.
Yeah, so do I. So do I. It's funny,
and
every
then-
time Courtney goes to the rack, I seem like to ask her the same question. Do you just show up and money's in your account and just go buy stuff? I'm kidding, honey. I'm kidding.
I think I think the baseball words are really hard for me today. Okay, the baseball analogy, thank you, was amazing because I think that's what I want. I want the Grand Slam. I told Courtney and Liz when we started this group, I want 50 coaches. Okay, well, it starts with one. I signed up
Yeah,
one.
good.
I lost my momentum. That was 2 weeks ago. Lost my momentum, and now I want the freaking Grand Slam like 7 times. That's what I want. Am I doing the actions? Nope. Am I showing up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, there's
Sorry.
nothing, I wouldn't let down your goal for a second. I mean, you have a high goal. There's nothing wrong with that. You should have a high goal. So you have to maintain that. And you have to
Yeah.
remind yourself of that every day. What I would say is, find somebody who has what you want. There's got to be a coach out there who has exactly what you're striving for. There's probably a ton of them. And then ask yourself, what are they doing and are you copying them? I mean, is there a coach out there who signed up and said, I want to sign 50 coaches and did it in 2 weeks? Well, if there is, and that's what you want to do, then find them and model exactly what they did. You don't need to recreate the wheel. I could guarantee you, just by saying it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You're aware that you're not taking the actions, but anything, you're not going to think of something that doesn't already exist in the universe. So anything that's you think of, it can be modeled. And what you got to do is find who you want to be like and ask yourself, are you doing what they did? Are you doing what it takes to get there? You already answered your own question. If you're not going to be honest with yourself, then don't even waste your time.
Yeah.
But if you're honest with yourself and you know that you're not taking the actions, there's no reason to think it's going to happen. But you don't have to stress about it either. Just find a recipe that someone cooks every day and copy it to the exact measurements, and it'll taste the same.
Thank you.
All right.
That's what's cool about the whole Beachbody system, is there's always somebody to model.
Yeah, and everybody's very forthcoming on what they do. You know what I mean? Like, you can find YouTube videos and trainings and all that. All right.
Yeah, but YouTube trainings aren't enough. You need somebody, let me say one more thing here. So let's say you find that person and you're like, okay, I don't know how this works. Maybe that's Courtney. I don't know if that's supposed to be, I don't know, but whatever. Let's say you find that person and you want to call them, but you're like, no, I don't want to look like an idiot. I don't want them to think, they don't have time for me. They're too busy. That's called resistance. And if you don't address resistance, you're going to lose. And if you address resistance and win, you're going to gain momentum and have a small win. Because if you find somebody who has that recipe and then you don't take the action again, you're still where you were, but you're actually even worse because now resistance won again. Now you're down 28-0, 3-0. So you have to push through that. Be hyper aware of resistance. Read the book Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday.
What is it?
Obstacle is the Way.
Heard of that?
Ryan Holiday. Ryan Holiday is probably the best author that we'll have in our lifetime. All of his books are unbelievable. But Obstacle is the Way is awesome. You're just going to get stories, same stuff over and over, of millions of people. Well, there's not millions in the book, but a lot of examples that are going to tell you the same thing, same scenario, where it's not like, you think Abraham Lincoln had different scenarios, George Washington, like all these people. He tells you the stories in the book. It's awesome.
That's what I was going to say, Maddie, when he was talking. I had a thought and then it passed, was, it's so easy to look at people who've hit that spot where you want to be and think that it came easy for them. And it goes back to the Jeff Bezos and the hell is his name? The Apple guy. Like they had so many speed bumps in the road before they got there, and it's not easy for anyone, whether, anybody who's made it would have this story of the grind and the hard work and the ups and downs and the resistance, daily that they had to show up to. And that's where Steve is kind of talking about Michael Jordan and, those people that have overcome all that. And it's hard. And that's why there's a small percentage of people that, reach a level in life and, all those different sectors.
I got to go, honey, or Steve's going to have a heart attack.
No, I'm going to stop here right now. Thank you, Steven.
He's like pacing around like he's going to the airport right now. So.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to stop recording. I appreciate you doing this for us.
All right, thanks. See you guys.
Steve.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thanks for having